All right, YouTube listeners. Uh, Real estate investing help number two video. So hopefully we won't have trouble like we did getting the first one 3 or 4 times. So tonight's, let me get the right paperwork in front of me. I got my Dreamer shirt on. I probably won't do that every time because every video will look exactly the same. But I had a guy say, "Man, where do you get one of them T-shirts at?" I said, "Oh, you can't get one of these, buddy. You don't dream big enough." So dream big. Trust me when I tell you that. Dream big. Because I tell you, you can dream big and shoot and miss, and still have a good life. So my dream is over 100 units, and I mean probably through an apartment building, so it can be handled by one management company. That I pay 10% of the rentals, and then maintenance is certain percent, 10%. Budget it all out, and then hopefully I should have about $6,000 or $7,000 a month that I retire and travel around the world. Um, so because my home will be paid off, you won't have a mortgage. Well, listen, I'm probably going to live in Thailand half of the year, live on $2,000 a month like a king, 2,500. So half of the year. Live in the United States when it's warm. Living in the Thailand when it's cold here. So anyway, okay, like I promised, the first video on 1506 Little Creek Road in Dover. So it was a little teeny, get my eyes on here, a 1992 Oakwood trailer. And the reason I can tell you that, I wouldn't have remembered that. And I have the title right here, and it's a long story, and I'm going to share that with you kind of quickly because I know the time runs out very quickly. I'm 2 minutes in. So that purchase price was $2,000. And what happened is I had a friend that lived there with his mother. His mother was very verbally abusive to him. I didn't realize my glasses sit crooked on my face. Or my head's crooked, one or the other. So my friend, and I'm talking a 38, 30-something, middle 30s aged man, trying to help his mother out. And I don't really know what his situation was, but he lived there and she talked to him like a dog. I mean, and he finally said, I've had enough. I got to leave here. And so I forget what she did. She ended up leaving, going somewhere else to live or whatever. But anyway, they were going to sell the property. I said, "Hey, are you interested in selling it?" And it's a 1992 trailer. But listen, they actually kept it up remarkably well. But it's still old. But don't be afraid of buying older properties that can be fixed up and generate good income. Listen, you can't rent and get so much rent for a house and a trailer, then the market's going to bear. So if you have a house, like let's say here in Dover, Delaware, capital of Delaware, so they have good areas, bad areas, but at that particular time, I rented rooms in that trailer, and then I think one time I rented the whole entire trailer to a family with kids. They ended up not paying me and tearing the trailer up, and then I ended up selling it. And I had to fix it before I sold it. But, yeah, they tried to tear the propane line off of the tank to say they didn't have heat because they were behind in the rent and I was starting the eviction process. They couldn't cut it, and so they ended up tearing it, breaking it, and broke the fitting off the propane or the fuel tank, propane, one of them, I can't remember, and called the Attorney General in that state. The Attorney General's assistant, somebody in that office, called me, and I'm like, "What?" And they're like, we're sending a man to inspect the property. They say the tenant says it doesn't have heat. It doesn't have heat because they tore the line off of it. And they went through the house, inspected this, you got to fix this, do that, this. They tore the bathtub up. I ended up having to put a new bathtub in that wasn't the same size as that. And I had to extend the wall 5.5 inches to put the new tub in. So listen, there's good and bad. That was the only bad situation I ever had. I was married back then. And my last wife said, I don't want to do this anymore. What? Because one bad situation? So, don't let one bad situation throw you off for the other, 99 that are good. So one bad apple don't spoil the whole bunch. Now, it may make you change things up, and I do things a little different now than I did then, but it's usually a learning process. So when you put things in place and boundaries and make sure your paperwork, okay, here's how I do it now. I have rentals now. On the 5th, it becomes late. You owe me a late fee. On the 6th, if I don't have it, I start paperwork for eviction. I'm not waiting until the end of the month for you not to pay me, and then the first of the month comes, you owe me another month now. So we're starting paperwork to evict you to get it moving. And if you pay me, then I withdraw it. So, but I got to get it moving so I don't lose more time and more rent. And that's how it is. This is a business. It's not personal. It's a business, and I do it as a business. So, but anyway, back to Little Creek Road. So I bought it, and then I ended up putting because it was an older trailer, the electric plugs had some issues. Some weren't grounded right. Some didn't work. Some whatever. And I paid an electrician a couple $100 to come in and change all the electric plugs out. And I forget, I did a couple things, about $500 worth of work. And I had forgotten that later, once I had it rented for over a year, I did it again, rented it to the family, and then I ended up having to put them out. They were crazy. And they had no intentions of paying me long term anyway. So I bought it for $2,000. I went up to him. He said he wanted to sell. They were leaving. I wrote up an agreement. I gave him $2,000 cash. He signed it and signed me the title. And don't be afraid to start with trailers and use a little bit of your own money. Shouldn't have to borrow a whole lot of money for trailers, but make a deal. Somebody wants to leave it, because they're going to a house or whatever. Make an agreement with the leasing office for the land, and most of them are in parks or whatever. It's a better deal to get one on land, but you're talking a whole bunch more money. So to get started, I did it my first two. And then the third one I had was in a park. I bought it from my mother. I won't go much into it, but she lived in it for 10 years. And I didn't make any money on that, but I did when I sold it. So that was from my mother, taking care of her, making sure she had a place to live. And at the end of 10 years on that one, I made a substantial amount of money on it. And what it did is it projected me to that same year that I sold it. I bought 2 properties in North Carolina, and I'll talk about them. So I bought the trailer for $2,000, did a little bit of work, put a renter in it. And I kept a good eye on it. I kept coming. Of course, I had to go to the office and pay the rent. Never said nothing about me not living there, but I'd show up occasionally and whatever. So they seen my car there and whatever. And like when you rent rooms in a place, and I have a place now that I'm doing it, actually where I live, my home upstairs is being rented. They pay my mortgage and the electric and the Wi-Fi here. So basically I live here for free. So it frees a lot of my money up to do other things with. So you have to tolerate a little bit. I have good tenants that a lot of times I don't even know if they're even here unless I look out to see if their vehicles are here. They pretty much come in, they stay in their room. I'm the only one that kind of lives in my living room, watches TV. I have a TV in my bedroom. I have a 55-inch TV in there. But I'm not going to huddle in my bedroom. That's where I sleep. And so, if I'm going to watch something a little later, I go in there and turn it down. But I'm downstairs. But nonetheless, I live in my living room. That's why it's called that. And I watch TV and events. I follow UFC fighting. And they're all welcome to sit in there and watch it. And one time I said, why don't you guys live in the living room? Stay in the living room, Oh, we don't want to disturb you. And you don't mind disturbing me with your TV on upstairs. But whatever, I don't care. So I live in my living room. And if you want to come watch a show, I can go in my bedroom and watch it if you want. Or whatever. So I'm just not going to stay huddled in my bedroom. But I'll go into the money on this one when I get to this one. So I rented the place. I made money. They paid my money back. So what I usually do when I buy something to rent, a cheap one, I lease it out enough to get my money back. And so that was $2,000. I got it back in, I forget what I rented, $100 a week back then or whatever. So it didn't take many weeks, 10 weeks to get my money back, whatever. And or 20 weeks. So half a year. So went the whole year. I had a year lease. I renewed my year lease and put the couple in it. And then it cost me a little bit. But it came out of the money that I had made from the rent. So they were, okay, so my second one I did, when I tell you about that one, I took a loan for that one. I borrowed $10,000. I ended up selling it for $20,000. And what I did was I paid the loan back, but I paid it back with the rent that I got from the tenants and they also paid the land rent, the lot rent at the park. So I always use somebody else's money. I mean, I may use mine initially to start, but then they pay me back. I take my money back. So like one of my third or fourth properties, I bought a piece of land, less than a quarter acre. I won't do it again. It always has to be more than a quarter acre. But it had already been approved for a well, and so I knew a gravity fed well, not a mound, because they're very expensive, like $30,000 where we're at in my state. So I didn't want to incur that into the property. So it was a low gravity fed. And so what I do when I rent it or do whatever, it pays me back. Like the money I would have had for the well, the septic, and the land and all that would be paid back to me, break even. And I'll explain about the break even. So you take whatever you have in the property, purchase price, repair, permits, well, septic, anything you did, that number divided by what your rent is, and the amount of weeks, months it takes to get your money back is your break even. And then after that, it's all profits, 100% profit minus your taxes. You have to keep your taxes up. So this one, I rented it out for 2 years, made all my money back, made a whole bunch of more money. Then on top of that, if I don't choose to hold it, which this one I didn't, because I wanted to step it up to something else, and it's always trouble in a park. You know, the first one wasn't too bad. The second one just stayed on me about, you don't live there, blah, blah, blah. So listen, you're getting your rent every month. We don't have any trouble there. They're quiet, all that. They just kept riding me. I paid a month ahead. And finally I said, listen, I'm just going to move the trailer. I have a right to move it. It's mine. And here's the funny part. I moved that trailer, and as far as I know, it's been 8 years, 7 or 8 years. There is still not a trailer on that. It was a corner lot, big lot. There's still not a trailer that they have not gotten money, lot rent, for that trailer in 7 or 8 years. So that's crazy. I guess they thought I wasn't going to move it, but I said what I meant. I meant what I said. Said, if you don't leave me alone, I'm moving the trailer off your property. Sure enough. But how I did it was I sold it to somebody who wanted to put it in another park to prove my point and to make me a man of my word. They said they wanted to move it. And so I said, okay, cool. That works out really good because that's what I wanted to do. So anyway, and then I sold it. I made $6,500. I didn't make that, but that's what I sold. What I did is I netted $4,000, but that's not counting the rent money that I made on top of this. I didn't add that in. I didn't figure it all out, but let's say a couple thousand more. I probably made $6,000 on it. And then what I did is I turned it over into the second one, where I ended up borrowing money from a bank to buy it. It was a tax. They owed money in taxes, and what I ended up doing, I made an agreement with them, but I'm going to tell you this on the next video. I made an agreement with the person that was behind in taxes to catch their taxes up. I mean, it was several $1,000s. And but I had the money when I sold this one for $6,500. And that's what I'm saying. Each one, turn it over and make it bigger. So I had the little teeny $2,000 trailer. The next one was $10,000. Sold it for $20,000. I netted from that one. My wife and I both got checks for $7,800 and some dollars. So $16,000 and something after the sale of it, taking the realtor's cost, or some mobile home company that sold mobile homes and all that. So now, at the end of 2 transactions, 2 deals, I end up with, 16,000 some, well, more than that because I had that money from the first one. Somewhere around $20,000 or so, give or take. So I'm getting ready to run out. I'm over 14 minutes. So that's what I did on that one. You'll probably hear a little bit about this on the next one. But the next one's 451 Phoenix Drive. It's a double wide trailer, a tax problem. They were behind in their taxes. I called them up. I'll explain all that. So the first deal were plus $6,000 on my first net. We're going to turn that into the second one, and I'll tell you about how you make more money with that one. So thanks for listening.